Hello, everyone. My name is Magnus Kollberg, and I work as an Agile coach at Agile 42 in the Sweden office. And today we're going to talk about what is coaching and a few words about Agile 42. It's founded in 2007. We are roughly 60 employees spread out in 10 countries over Europe, South Africa, and North America. And we got our headquarters in Berlin, where also we got a small development team. And I work at the Swedish office in Stockholm. Some practical things just is, if you got any questions, try to use the Q&A, and you'll find it in the Zoom. And use the chat just to reach out to me or to all. So that I think that will be it. Okay, looks like we are around, let's see, 25 participants currently. So it's a good crowd. Okay, so, but first, before we start, I would like you to write down your expectations for today. So what do you hope to learn or take with you from this session? And in order to do that, just write it in the chat and assure to send it publicly so everybody can see it. So I don't have to read everything up. Okay, so take a minute and do that. Okay, good. Let me just check out what you have. Like that. Sorry for that. Let's see what you got. What is coaching? Yeah, that's a good one. What is the difference between coaching and agile coaching? How to apply coaching in everyday life? What's the difference between mentoring and coaching? How long time does it take to be a coach? Perhaps a more question, but yeah. And you're filling it up, so you can read it yourself. Good. I think I think this will hit you. It would be pretty okay with that. I'm pretty okay with that. So, and of course, if you got any questions, just write them in the Q&A at any time, and I'll check them at some regular intervals. Okay, let's go. So before the first thing I would like to do is to tell you a little story about how my interest in coaching started to grow. And I've been working as an Agile coach full-time for the last 8 years, and as a Scrum Master and Product Owner in different Agile contexts since 2006. And at my early years as a Scrum Master, I had two kind of situations which was a bit annoying to me when I was working with a team or an individual. And one of the situations it was that sometimes when I just someone asked me for a solution, I was or a solution to a problem that they had, I was looking to the previous experiences that I had, took that solution and copied it into the current situation. And some cases it's completely failed, like. And in other cases, it also was like almost like the receiver felt embarrassed, almost looked like that. Such a crazy suggestion. So that was one of the things where actually my advice was the wrong one for their context. The other situation was more like where my advice was rejected. If you had a really simple problem, the solution was obvious. It was almost like you think with it's dark in the room, and what do? Well, you turn on the light switch, for example. That kind of problem. And even if I provided that solution, people didn't follow it. And those two situations, I couldn't I think I didn't formalize, reflected on them that much. It was just something that grew in me, that something was wrong or didn't work. And if we look at those two situations, I think there are two different reasons for this. If we start out with the wrong advice, sorry for that. The wrong advice thing is more like, if we think of a person and the whole person, meaning their experiences, their beliefs, their values, their competences, the relationships, everything. And that is completely impossible to understand for another person. And you can't download another person's brain into yours. So you can't grasp the full person and know the context. If you then put that person in a team, and you put that team into an organization which has we have a specific culture, we got roles, we got structures, we got incentive models, all kinds of things. It becomes very complex. And advices in a complex situations are pretty risky. So that is one of the reasons why this didn't work in some cases, some of the more complicated challenges or problems that the teams had. The other thing where the team actually rejected a perfect advice in that sense, then it was more like I think people don't like advices that much, and especially advices that they haven't asked for. Like, so there is kind of a resistance as well to for different reasons to take on an advice. So those were the two things that got me interested in that I'm missing something. There needs to be some other skills or competences that I need to grow in order to be better to serve the people that I want to help. So I first attended a training with a coaching training, which was like Agile Coaching, 3 days with a woman called Lisa Atkins. She's written a book called Coaching Agile Teams as well, which is good. And at that one, I became curious, but I wasn't hooked. I applied some of the thinking in my day-to-day work, but still, it was like I think I forgot it after some time. How to put it? I recapped it from time to time as well, but still, it wasn't enough to give me the proper skills. So after a couple of years later, I started or joined a coaching program called a professional coaching program from ICF. Was a 4-month program with practice that you were required to have coaching practices in between. Individual coaching is what I'm talking about now. And that actually got me hooked. And I realized that I had some stuff to work on personally in order to be good at this. So I practiced and I tried to apply this thinking and the coaching conversations as in every possible situation I could come up with. I probably annoyed half of all my friends and families and colleagues. But anyway, so it helped me. And this year I've started a 12-month program, which is a deepening program in professional coaching. And I feel a bit more secure now than I was before. So things has happened. That's for sure. So very curious, and that's my journey for professional coaching, I would say. And we're going to look into that Or first, let's look at the content a bit for today. We're going to talk about what is coaching and what isn't coaching. What kind of assumptions do we have in coaching or professional coaching? What are the underlying assumptions? How does a coaching conversation look like? We're going to check a little bit on that. And then how does a coaching series look like? What's the structure of that? Typical. And also some words about agile coaching at the end. Okay. Any questions so far? Or let's keep on to them. You can't have that many questions currently. So just stick to them for a while and I'll come back to them. Keep posting them if you, as soon as you get, come up with a question. So if we start looking at professional coaching, and I say professional coaching because that is one of the competences that is very good to have as an agile coach. The biggest organization for certifying professional coaching is the ICF, International Coaching Federation, and they define coaching like this. So if you take read this 2 times, so go through it 2 times. Okay, so if we look at it now, there are some keywords here that helps us to understand this a little bit better. So ICF defines coaching as a partnering with clients. That means that the coach and the client, sometimes called the coachee, are partners. Partners are equal. So no one is above the other one, and they are looking at the problem from the same side of the table, more or less. So that's an important thing, that partnership. It says a thought-provoking and creative process, which is that is supposed to generate new thinking at the client. That's the whole idea, to stretch them out of their current thinking. It says that inspires them, which is something positive. So it's moving them forward, giving them energy to take a step, to maximize their personal and professional potential. Maximize the personal professional potential is that they have a potential. There is a potential in every human being, and we just need to unleash it, that kind of thing. And personal and professional, well, we're looking at the whole human being, not just the professional role, but also as a person as well. So there is both roles included in coaching. Okay. So let's dig into the coaching assumptions. There's a couple of things. The first thing you need to do before you start coaching another person or a team is that you need to have an agreement. Oh, sorry, let's go back. This is the underlying assumptions of coaching. So coaching builds on some certain assumptions, which is confidentiality between the client and the coach. And that means that as a coach, I never talk about the clients to anyone else, or the content, of course, to anyone else. And this is part of the partnering and building the trustful and safety relationship. The client needs to know that I'm not going to do that. This what we talk about here will stay here. Like kind of the Vegas rules, you know. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Other assumptions here are that the client is the expert in her and his life and work. The client is creative, resourceful, and whole. The client has the answers, and the coach has no agenda. So the only agenda as a coach would be to help the person to develop. A couple of more things is that the client is responsible for the content of the conversation, meaning the actions and the goal. Well, not just the conversation, the whole thing. While the coach is responsible for the process in the conversation. That's it. And those assumptions changes things a bit. So there's nothing here about coming with answers, being the expert, or giving advices, which is not coaching. Now, the first thing you need to do in order to start coaching another person is to set up a coaching agreement. You need to have the agreement to coach. And the purpose with that is of course to build a relationship with the person, so that we know the expectations of each other, and also to check if this is the right thing. Is it coaching the person needs, or is it something else? Those are the this agreement is created in typically in the first meeting with the person, or first occasion with the person, where you set this up in a conversation. Sometimes even sign it in a contract if it's needed. Could be when you work as a how do you call it, assignment in a company that hires you as a coach for coaching their employees, for example. So what's in this agreement? Well, you need to tell them about the stuff that we've already talked about. You need to tell them what confidentiality, that there is confidentiality. You need to tell them what coaching is and isn't, so that is understood. Also about the responsibilities. Some practical things as well, like how long is a coaching session? How long is a coaching series of sessions? In what frequency are we going to meet? So everything is very time boxed, like in Scrum, for example. You get a certain amount of coaching sessions in a series with an end date, and you have every session which is a certain amount of time. You need to mention the cancellation policy. So what happens if you would like to, you as a coach or the coachee would like to cancel the whole thing for some reason, like it doesn't feel good, or it doesn't bring me value, or as a coach it might be from ethical perspective as well, that I can't work with this person, it doesn't work for some reason. And also you need to agree upon some potential goal for the whole coaching series. So what is it that we're going to work with? Yeah, that's kind of it. When you work in an organization where you have you need to have an additional flavor of this, you need to include the sponsor in this and in the meeting. So there's kind of a trialogue meeting between the coach, coachee, and the sponsor. And the sponsor is typically the manager of the coachee. And the same thing needs to be discussed. Well, the goal needs to be discussed to assure that the coachee and the sponsor have the same view of the goal. So what is it that we're going to improve here? Also, you need to check out, are there any frames for coaching? Anything that you're not supposed to coach outside of? And also, how are you going to follow up that it provides value? How are you going to do that? That needs to be specified as well. So everything is cleared for the three of you. Okay, and then you're pretty set up for good setup for starting your coaching. And I mentioned that it's a series, and I mentioned that there is coaching sessions. So let's look at that. A typical coaching series count 10 weeks, 10 occasions, with 2 weeks in between. And coaching is a very goal-oriented process, meaning that there needs to be a goal for the whole series, the whole thing. And SMART goals, you probably know the acronym, like applies here as well. So the goal needs to be measurable. It needs to be possible to achieve it for the person and specific. So staying on that one is extremely important. And same goes for each of the coaching sessions. You're starting up the session with defining the goal for this session. And from time to time, you check out how is this related to the overall goal. So you are taking steps towards something bigger. And I think from my experience of this is both personal, but also from the colleagues or the participants in the coaching classes I currently are taking, and especially the first longer one that I attended to. My experiences from that one is that the goal formulation is a bit difficult, and all the participants, more or less all of them, said the same thing. To get a good goal formulation is not that easy, and the risk is that when you're in the conversation and you're trying to find out the goal, especially if you're not that experienced with this, you might start building up a bit of stress or pressure to actually get going with the conversation because you would like to provide value. So there is a tendency to get going even if the goal is blurry, but what happens at the end is that you don't know where to go. So it's very, very important that the goal is clear, both for the coach and for the coachee. So anything else about this? I think it's okay. Yeah, we got a couple of things more. I talked about the follow-up. In case you work as you have an assignment in a company where you get a sponsor, you need to decide where you follow up on the progress. And typically, I usually do it a couple of times, like somewhere in the middle and at the end. And of course, you can do it more frequently, but I usually do it a couple of times, where we actually meet the all three of us, the sponsor, the coach, and the coachee, to discuss kind of the value of the coaching so far. And at the end, the value of the whole thing. So that's about that. Also, let's see if I can check if I got any questions. So give me a second. I'm just gonna check this one. So here's a question. Hi, I would like to know if the coaching agreement and conversation goes the same way if you do it with a team. Now, when we talk about professional coaching, it's actually, and it has very much similarities of the setup when it comes to agile coaching, perhaps, but focusing on professional coaching, the setup is much the same. Like you still need to have an agreement to coach. You still have you still have a sponsor to agree about how to improve. And the coaching series might be the same thing as well. Like you meet them with a couple of weeks in between to give some homework as well, so they can reflect and work on that one in between. And you have a series as well. Confidentiality is the same thing. I mean, of course, if the team members would like to talk with, well, that's up to them. But for me, I would never talk about the content or of the conversations with the team. And that is something, that is also something that I make clear to the sponsor, that we can talk about the coaching, we can talk about the goal and the value it provides, but I will not talk about the content of our conversations. Okay, so yeah, the answer is yes. If you think of the working agreement for a team, they have some elements of this. So that is a good start. Another question, let's see. Okay, are there any situations where you as a coach would cancel the coaching? Yeah, actually it could be. And I have an interesting situation a couple of 6 months ago or something like that, where I had one person from a team who who had some challenge with a colleague at the company, not in the same team, it was another company, another place in the company. And then and I was working with that person, and that person would like to improve kind of the relationship with this other person. At the same time, the other person contacted me and would like to have coaching as well, and he had the same kind of agenda, and that become pretty awkward to me because I don't want to mess up things in between them. If you think of it, suppose take another example. Think if it was the manager and the subordinate that you coach at the same time in different sessions, of course, and that you find out that the manager is about to fire the person, and the person is thinking of his improving his possibilities at work or something like that. That is information that I will have, but none of them know that I'm sitting in between with information that actually I don't want to have as a coach. And the danger will be that I might run into trouble. Who said what, for example, and coaching someone who to improve their work life, and at the same time know that and making a plan for their career at the company, and at the same time knowing that the manager is going to fire the person, that doesn't feel that good. So that would be a situation where I say, no, I need to cancel this for ethical reason. I will probably cancel it for one of them, and then I'll sure to appoint them to another coach instead. So there is separate coaches for each of those persons. I hope that answers the question. I have another one. So coaching conversations lasts usually for about 90 minutes. That's the question. Yeah, 60 or 90 minutes, depends. 60 can be a bit short, but it might work. Otherwise, 90 minutes is a pretty good standard. What usually happens in the contract phase during a coaching conversation? You probably mean this one. Let's see. This one. Is it this one? Yeah. Okay, contract. Let me see if I go through this picture and perhaps I answer the question, okay? So this is about the coaching conversation as such, the single conversation. And the picture shows two levels. You got the conversation level down here where you and the coach works together. The coach and coachee works together. And then you got a meta or process level where the coach has his third eye, if I put it like that, from time to time. So what happens is that if you take this in order, first you just meet, some chit chat, build a relationship. Hello, how's it going? And then I'm gonna switch this, sorry. We're gonna do it like this. Mm-hmm. And then we move up to the contract phase. And contract is about, as I talked to before, like what is the goal for today, and trying to find out the goal. And of course, if coaching is the thing that the person needs, that usually has happened in when you get a series, you have set that up before. But here in the session, you define the goal for the rest of the conversation. Also, another thing is that how would you like, a typical question here would be like, how would you like me to be as a coach in order to help you in the best way? And then they might be, I want you to stop me because I talk that much. I want you to challenge me or something like that. Just to be open to see if you find something that is useful for you as a coach in order to follow the client in a good way. And then the actual conversation starts, which is down here. The actual conversation starts where you as a coach ask powerful, open-ended questions. And also uses active listening to really take in what's happening and follow the person in the conversation. And from time to time, you invite the coachee or client up to this checkup where you check up, are we talking about the right things? Do we need to explore other options or alternatives here? How do you think it's going? Do we provide any value? Are we coming somewhere? That kind of thing. Just to ensure that you are doing the conversation is about the right things. And when that is, and then you go down again to conversations. So you move up again from time to time up to the checkup. At the end of the conversation, you go to, in the conclusion phase, you need to come up with, so, okay, so what are the actionable steps that you're going to do in order to change your situation? And, but that is the last thing you do, more or less. So what are you going to do? You're trying to formulate that and help them to formulate that. And also, when are you going to do it? And might be helpful to ask, how you want me to check up on this with you in between, or just it's going to be interesting to follow your progress on this, and let's hear more about how this went the next time we meet. And then you have kind of the closure, which is take the opportunity to do a little retrospective. So what did I do that helped you today in the conversation, and what do you think we should change in our relationship or in our conversations to make them even better in the future? Those are good things to bring up. And then some chit chat and goodbye, and then we're done. And that is 90 minutes typically then. So that's about the coaching conversation. Did I answer the question that we got, what happens in the contract phase? Yeah, good. Awesome. Let's move on. Other questions? I got two questions here, but might be better to wait with them a bit. Both of them are related to becoming an agile coach. We got one here. I'm interested, what could be the difference between normal and agile coaching? And I think I mentioned it already, and I'll come back to it. But briefly, professional coaching, which is in this case, what you mentioned as normal coaching. Professional coaching is one of the skills that you need as an agile coach. But you can't just apply coaching as an agile coach. You need other skills as well. So the main difference is there, but we'll come back to that a bit more. We had another one which is suggested learning paths to become an agile coach, but I think I mentioned that, but let's dig into that later on. Okay, so let's check the difference between coach and mentoring, which is a popular topic. And if we look at some key characteristics here, or from for example, if we check from a time perspective, a coach typically works with shorter intervals for the coaching series, 2 weeks in between, and 6 months, less than 6 months period is typical. While in mentoring is often longer period of time. It might be a year, and the time in between are longer as well, 4 to 6 weeks. In mentoring, you rarely have a goal, but in coaching, you always have a goal. And from a knowledge perspective, what the coach or mentoring provides is that the mentor is the expert in the business and has loads of experiences from the area, while the coach is expert in learning and behavioral change. And then if we look at learning, then the learning provided by each of those different roles is that the mentor gives advices based on the experiences and the expertise they have in the business, while the coach just change the thinking and behavior of the person with powerful questions, with the ability to be really present in the conversation and follow the client where they would like to go. Exactly. And if we look at how active they are, well, coaching is a profession, typically a profession, while mentoring is typically a side activity, something that the mentor does at the side of his ordinary work. So the mentor focusing on the work role, while the coach focuses on the work role and the person. So all roles, the whole person. That's the main difference. I hope it becomes a bit clearer now. And this is worth mentioning as well. The question sometimes pops up: what is, if it's about therapy, and it's not. Coaching is not therapy. And just because you're practicing coaching doesn't make you a therapist or a psychologist. And the main difference here is that coaching deals with the future. You're forward-looking, actionable steps forward, while therapy deals with the past. And I got a good quote from someone, I don't remember who said to kind of separate this. So when you're in doubt about if coaching is needed or therapy is needed or not, then you're not in doubt. Meaning that if you start doubting, the person probably might need something else. And when I talk about, I don't know if I mentioned it, but as a person needs to be whole in order to be coached, meaning that they need to be mentally healthy. So if you ever run into a coach who starts asking you a question about your childhood, run for the hills. That would be my personal suggestion. Okay. When not the coach, yeah, let's take a couple of minutes. I need your help here. So let's take a couple of minutes and write in the chat of situations where you think that coaching is not the appropriate approach to take. So take a couple of minutes for that. Okay. Let's see what you got. When the person is not whole, yep. When you're going to provide a product vision or tell a product vision, yeah. When someone is going to be fired, yeah. That's kind of the same thing. Yeah, let's see. I got a couple of them as well. So one of them is when to deliver a message. If you're there to deliver a message for some reason, that coaching is not the right thing to do. And if you're there to provide feedback, to give feedback, that is not a good thing to do either. I mean, you can of course provide feedback within the coaching conversation, both from the coach and from the coachee, and that's a good thing. But use coaching to deliver feedback is not the best. and when the person is not mentally healthy. Yeah, true. I think this is the kind of the key things that there are probably more when they ask for an advice. Exactly, when they ask for an advice within your field of expertise and you know the answer, it's better to give them the answer, of course. I mean, they think of the light switch problem. If you know that you're just going to turn on the light switch and it's a simple problem, then go for it. Okay. So coaching skills. What coaching skills do you need as a coach? What skills do you need as a coach? And there's a couple of them at least. You need to be able to build trust with others. You need to be able to go beyond just hearing, meaning sometimes this is called active listening, that you're not listening only to the words that the coachee speaks, but also what kind of language they use, what the tone of the voice, the body language and expressions in their face, and do they correlate with what they are saying. All those kind of things, which requires a lot of presence, I would say. You of course use powerful open-ended questions with the purpose to help the person to think. That is the key point of this. You need to be able to facilitate goal definitions. As this is a tricky thing, and probably for all human beings, you need to know how to what kind of questions to pose in order to get it done, and not be satisfied until it's good at some decent level. You need to be able to facilitate designing positive actions at the end of the conversation in order to help the person to take steps forward, and ensure that there is accountability, that the client is accountable for the actions and the goals, achieving the goals. So yeah, that's some of the skills. So what about Agile coaching? Well, Agile coaching is based on the expert consulting paradigm, and it's like if you think of that, it's more like you observe something, a behavior, a problem, you diagnose it, and you come with a solution. That's the basic thing. The tricky thing with this is that, as I mentioned at the beginning in the situation, my own experience of getting started into coaching, some situations are complex, and in complex stuff, advice is very risky, because it is so many chances or possibilities that you're wrong in your assumptions, because you can't take in the whole context. For simple problems, this works fine. Like, then you can give advices, but when things are complicated, it's extremely tricky, or risky, if I put it like that. Another way of looking at this is that as a coach, you have as an Agile coach, you have a reference in the framework that you use. For example, Scrum. You know how that works, and you're an expert on that one. And therefore, you also might suggest things, activities, or suggest the team or Scrum Master, whoever you work with, to do things that they would never have done if you hadn't insisted on it. While if you were a professional coach, you will not take the client to a place where they don't want to be. So you will be much more kind of follow the person. So that is kind of a difference. But let's look into some of the skills. Agile 42's approach to Agile coaching, where we have the coaching as our base stance. And then we have 4 other roles. Like, so you use coaching as your base stance, And if you, for example, have a conversation and you realize that the person has a knowledge gap, and that a typical pull signal for that will be that you hear something like, I don't know about, or I don't know how that works, thing. So what happens then, as you switch to the teaching stance, you explain the concept, you verify that they have understood it, answer some questions in order to assure that, and then you move back to the coaching stance. A typical thing then will be like, okay, now when you hear this, what options do you see? Do you think this might fit your problem? And they might say yes. That, as an example, that story mapping that you taught me sounds perfect, but I don't know. A pull signal here would be, I don't have the experience of doing that. So meaning you're switching to mentoring, where you are demonstrating how to do it. You're pairing up with a client to actually do the job together with that one, to guide them through the process of, in this case, story mapping. And then you move back again to the coaching stance. In other cases, you might hear a signal or someone saying, I just need an expert opinion about something. And then you switch to advising and being an advisor. And in that case, you evaluate the situation, you provide options in order to generate insights for the person. So more like the advising stuff. And the fourth one is role modeling, which is last but not least, meaning that you need to, of course, role model the behaviors that you would like your coachee or the team to apply. So that will be to live and breathe agile values and principles. So those are the five different stances in our approach to agile coaching, where coaching is a central thing. Okay. So let's see if you got any questions related to this. Give me a second. We got a suggested learning path to become an agile coach. And this is a bit of a tricky thing, but it's about because it's a mixture of you need experiences to become an agile coach in this sense, meaning that a good start will be that you work as a Scrum Master, for example, for one team, and then you work as a Scrum Master for other team as well. So you have tried out to be in different kinds of teams because they are not alike, and also from different organizations, build up the experience from that, and different industries. So you see the different situations and challenges in the organizational culture, the different teams, the organizational setup. That's a good thing. And then you have those competences that you kind of need to start growing. The mentoring thing comes with your experience in the thing. The teaching thing is about being able to hold classes or teach subjects. So how do you do that in a good way? It's usually helpful to be pretty good at drawing some simple stuff, for example, in order to explain your thoughts to make people think, because pictures is very powerful for people thinking. You have the role modeling when I said live and breathe agile values and principles. Well, you of course needs to also build up the competence of, for example, Scrum or other agile methods or frameworks as well, like Kanban, for example. It doesn't hurt to know about the other lightweight frameworks as XP, extreme programming. Know about the engineering practices that's out there and how they work and what value they bring. You have complexity thinking, which is, well, we're dealing with complex stuff. Teams are complex, individuals are complex, and organizations are complex. So digging into complexity thinking is a good thing. System thinking as well. There is a famous book called The Fifth Discipline from Peter Senge, which is a good read on that. Facilitation skills. So in order to facilitate meetings in a structured way, as an agile coach, it will be impossible not to grow those kind of skills. So those are things, and how you can obtain them. Of course, you can get them by just pure experiences, but that will take and reading books. So that will give you a pretty good going on the journey. But if you would like to have a shortcut, there is one advice is to ensure that you get a mentor, some experienced person that you can kind of discuss with or work with from time to time in order to learn to learn from. But then take trainings, of course, and be curious. I mean, if you look at like trainings, there is a bunch of them out there. And I got a questions that I read before, what trainings I would suggest about, for example, Scrum.org, Scrum Alliance, ICF Agile, and the I don't know that much about Agile or Scrum.org, to be honest, but I know a bit about Scrum Alliance. And my recommendation would be like taking the first two certificates here. And actually the certificates perhaps is not meaningful for all people, but it's taking them from good trainers assure that the trainer are if they are able to provide the certificate, you can be pretty sure that they have a good standards in their trainings. Of course, this varies as well, but I can assure you that the trainers at Agile 42 has extremely high standards, and that's one of the reasons why I joined the company, by the way. I would like to learn from those guys. But so the Scrum Master training, the Product Owner training are a good start, both of them. But then you need to add some skills when it comes to, for example, team coaching. And at Agile 42 we have something called the ATCC, Agile Team Coaching Certification, which is a 5 days training spread out like it's 2 + 2 + 1 day with some time in between, which goes through kind of the palette of skills that you need to have in order to work as an agile coach. And then of course you have time in between to practice this. So practice. It's and that's a very good training as well. So a good idea might be, as usual, to set up some goal for yourself. And a help could be to look at those higher certificates in, for example, Scrum Alliance. They got something called the Certified Team Coach, which is pretty high standard to reach. And they have also something called Certified Enterprise Coach, which also has pretty high requirements in order to reach them. But with using those as a goal, you'll have like you get some kind of direction of your learning, and so that's not a bad thing to aim for. So check out that Scrum Alliance site or Agile 42 site, and you'll see kind of some help and guidance for what trainings to take. And then it's just kind of go ahead. You got trainings for different techniques. You got trainings for product ownership, leadership, organizational design. It never ends. When it comes to coaching, I'm gonna show you, I think I have a slide of that because I have that question as well, how to improve how to grow as a professional coach as well. So let me see if I find that one here. Looks like this, and that's the ICF certification path. And this is roughly, so I recommend you to check the real data on the ICF web page. ICF is not an organization that a company that conducts training. They are more like setting the standards for the training than the different companies who actually conducts the training. But their first level, and now I'm talking of professional coaching, the first level is something called ACC, Accredited Certified Coach. And as you see, it requires some hours of coaching that you can show that you have had, 8 clients, trainings. You need mentor coach hours as well. And the next level is called the professional coaching. And the last one is master certified coach. The one we take the one in the middle, professional certified coach, you see that the number of hours increases, which forces you to practice, and practice is one of the key things here. You actually need to practice in order to get this done. The PCC, well, I will say if you are on a professional certified coach level, you are pretty good at professional coaching, and of course, if you're here, you're even better. As an agile coach, I think you will come a long way if you aim for this one. So that's roughly how that works. Okay. Let's see where we are on time. I think that was it for today. Thank you very much for attending the webinar. I hope you found it interesting. Oh, sorry, I missed a thing. I realized I missed one thing. And that's this one. Yeah. So if you're interested in growing your coaching capability and really don't know, even if it's agile coaching or professional coaching, and you don't know kind of how to take the next steps because this presentation was so fast, I'm here, so just give me send me an email on that address, or just connect to me and mess me on LinkedIn. Another thing would be, if you're interested in being coached on some topic, I'm open for that as well. So just contact me. And I would like to promote another thing, which is a brand new thing from Agile 42. It's our online coach clinic, and you find the address here, and it's posted in the chat as well, where you can book a free 45 minutes time slot for coaching by one of our coaches. So I recommend you to try that out as well. And now this ended up in the wrong order. Thank you for listening, and hope to meet you the next time. Bye bye.